Good evening, everyone. I'm Sibi Sudhakaran on behalf of Indian Business and Professional Council. A warm welcome to all of you. Today we are hosting the third edition of Distinguished Doyens and Gen Next, which is a felicitation series. And it's a distinct honor that today we have Dr. Ram Baksani and Ms. Rachna Baksani Mirpuri, distinguished, one of the towering businessmen, business leader in the Indian community here. It's a prolific career of 6 decades, but we have tried to sum it up in 2 minutes in a short profile AV. So let's have the AV first. may I please request our President, Mr. Suresh Kumar, to please come on stage. Also, if I may invite a big round of applause for Dr. Ram Baksani and Ms. Rashna. Please come on stage and we'll begin with the program.
So Ram, impressive credentials as always, and I didn't know the list was as long as this, including Rachna, your credentials are brilliant. Welcome to IBPC, to this function, and I'm glad you're joining among your three sisters, or two sisters, three in all, and you represent all of them. You represent all of them, and please give our best wishes and regards to both Chetna and to Gauri. Gauri is now called Hanisha, right? So
You've done good homework.
I've done some homework. Okay. So Ram, let's start at the right beginning. Beginning of your life. You were born in Hyderabad, Sindh.
That's correct.
And
But let me compliment Suresh, because I can't resist complimenting you.
Yes.
I mean, I have attended two earlier functions. Yeah, I was born in Hyderabad.
Born in Hyderabad, Sindh, and at a fairly young age, sadly, you lost your father.
Yeah, at the age of 5, I lost my father,
Yeah.
and
He was 36.
he was 36.
36. Hmm.
I can see you read my
And
book very well.
followed by a second tragedy, namely the partition, which
That's-
moved the family within a few years.
Not few years.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was 5 years old. We lost our father when he was 36. It was 24th of January, 24th of December 1947. And after his passing away, and after his last rites, we moved to yes. At that time, it was India.
India. It was-
The present portion
you
of
moved
India.
to another part of India. You
That's-
actually
that's
moved
correct.
to
I was-
Chennai or Madras.
I have still not digested the idea
Is it?
that we were born in Pakistan. No, we were born in India.
At that time, it was India.
Yes. So it was in India, and
They waited for you to leave, and then on the 15th of August, they renamed it Pakistan. Okay, that part of India. And so you moved to Chennai first, or Madras, as it was called, and then Baroda.
yes.
Tell us
yes.
about
this,
that.
I think this is a good question which you asked, because not many of
people know about,
will be knowing about that, because although it is mentioned in my autobiography, but there are not many readers of autobiography, because it's a boring exercise when you go through autobiography.
Actually, it was quite interesting, frankly, and except that today we're not taking the high road. We're going down memory lane.
That's correct. So from Hyderabad, Sindh, in a train with my grandmother and my mother and 5 siblings, me and 5 more, we moved. The first stop was Marwar by train. And from Marwar, I distinctly remember we took a bus a little while and then came to Ahmedabad. So in Ahmedabad, we spent a couple of days on the platform, enjoying the hospitality of several voluntary organizations, eating puri bhaji, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But they were so kind, because those were the days when Sindhis as refugees could travel all over the country without ticket. Because whenever ticket collector would ask about the ticket, you just say refugee. Khalas. That itself was a big ticket. And so from my uncle, means my mother's sister used to live in Chennai, at that time Madras. So she said that you come down here, and Madras is a good place. So from Ahmedabad, we moved via Bombay to Madras and stayed there for some time.
And
Yes.
then you moved to Baroda to study.
Yes.
in the
Then
Sindh.
my paternal uncle was in Macau, very near to Hong Kong, and he said, you come to, because we had no, a senior person in our family to lead us. I was 5 years, my elder brother was 6 years elder to me, but so we had to simply follow whatever others were saying.
Was decided.
So then we came to, he said you come to Baroda. So from Madras to Baroda. But I had my KG education in Madras, in a convent school. That was only one class which I studied.
Your preschool in Madras, okay.
Exactly, I still remember Chule. If you know Madras well, or maybe if some people are from Madras.
Audience, yeah. And then in Baroda schooling,
Yes.
it was a Sindhi high school.
Yes, it was in the Hindu high school. It was also very interesting because with so many people coming from Sindh and migrating, there were not many facilities which could accommodate Sindhis. So there was a school, a Gujarati medium school. They were very kind. They said, we are running one shift. You can take the school for another shift. But only consideration has to be that during winter, they will come in the afternoon, Sindhis will come in the morning.
Okay.
And during summer, they will come in the morning and we...
So you got the scorching sun.
Yes, I mean, but
That was the deal.
That was a deal, but
was the deal, yeah.
Still we could get accommodation, and
Okay.
that's a big thing. And so I remember in the morning, Baroda is pretty cold during winter, and the school used to open at 7 o'clock in the morning, and the school was about 4 kilometers away from my home. In those days, we had no buses, no cycles, no transportation. We had to walk. 4 kilometers to walk from home to school. And before that also, we had to do some homework because my mother would tell me to go and bring some water from the pump.
Homework, work for the home.
Yes.
Working
Yes,
for the home.
but it was really enjoyable.
And then you bought a cycle.
No.
Much later.
Throughout my studies, it was leg work.
Leg work only, okay, okay.
No cycle, no buses.
No cycle, no buses.
But I mean, in those days, there was no culture of buses and all this. Some affluent class may be having cycles in those days, but nothing more than that.
And then you were acting in Sindhi plays, or you started acting.
No, that is much later.
Much later.
In Dubai.
In Baroda?
Baroda, I played in Gujarati.
Gujarati.
I don't know how many Gujaratis are there. Bharat Bhai is here.
Bhai here,
Bharat Bhai is there. I played in 2 dramas, Parke Bhane. He understands the meaning of Parke Bhane. That means at others' caste, which I am not in my true real life. Parke Bhane and Shisha Ma Utarya. So, I mean, Gujaratis can understand.
Some people understand, yes, I'm sure.
Yes, they were very successful dramas. Yes.
Okay. So that was your first initiation into the theatre.
That's correct. I mean, it was fun acting there. And at the same time challenge, because to act in a film is much easier than a play, because here there are no retakes. If you make the mistake, you spoil the show. Chapters over.
You won't get another play.
No, or you have to make it up.
Yes, absolutely. And so Ram, from there, in November 1959, you landed in Dubai.
Yes. And let me...
18th of November, to be
My
precise.
God, I was about to tell you, yes, you remember the date, year, and yes.
And you arrived by
by
Dara,
ship.
by the
ship.
ship Dara.
Dara.
Which later there was a bomb explosion, and after 18 months it collapsed.
It was
Sadly,
down,
sadly.
and unfortunately.
Tell us about those days when you landed. What happened? What was your first impression of Dubai? You came from Sharjah, or you came directly?
No. This
The ship came to Dubai.
Dara came to Dubai from Bombay to Karachi and a brief stopover in Muscat and then Dubai.
Okay.
And it was very simple procedure. So-called immigration officer, he would board the ship, collect passport, and go away. And of course, November, so ship docked in mid-sea because in those days there was Dubai had not even a single port. All the ships would park mid-sea, and in the smaller boats we would have to get down and come to
the boat and
and to come to where now Diwan Amiri is there at the moment. There we would come. Now it was quite a risky thing for me because I was maybe 1.5 times the size which I am, and I did not know swimming at that time. I was quite,
especially from the ship to the boat.
Ship to the boat. I had to jump, and newcomer from India. But again, I had to jump. So I jumped, and then came to that dock, and this immigration officer says, "Take your goods, and tomorrow your passport will be delivered in your office."
In your office?
Yes. That was very simple, and that means how much trust existed and how the whole country ran on trust.
And then tell us about your professional life
Then
first.
the first evening was excellent. And later also, not that there has been any problem later on. But when I landed, I had to walk through the street because the whole town was half a kilometer. And from one end to another end, it's a half a kilometer, and there was no telephone. So if you had to meet anybody, you had to go personally and meet him. And when you went to meet a person, on the way you could meet the whole town, and you keep on saying salam alaikum, ram ram ram. Then the whole town knows that you are so by the time I came down from the boat, practically whole town knew that some new creature has come. And then the guy who came to receive me, because ITL had only 2 persons, and the guy who came to receive me, he said, "We are having dinner tonight outside." So, coming from Baroda, dinner outside, this is something quite exciting. So I said, okay. So, and we went there were 10, 12. In those days, Indians means generally 2 or 3 communities. Among Gujaratis, they were all Sonis. Okay. Others were Sindhis who dealt in textiles. And then Malayalis. That's all. And so this party was at the residence of a Sindhi. I went there. Did not go to home for change also. Just ship to the office because at 6 o'clock.
And then you had a room on top of the office?
No. There was it was different. You know where Ambassador Hotel is there now? Just opposite to Ambassador Hotel, there was a wooden building, and Mr. Duff, who, financial Bill Duff, he also used to stay, but he subsequently came and stayed there. So, but this party was where HSBC building is there. Not new HSBC building, let us say Bank of Baroda. HSBC used to be. And that was the place where dinner was there. And what was dinner? Meat cooked in one bowl, and khubus brought from the bakery, plenty of red label.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there was no other label available at that time. and because the red label was available in 7 rupees a bottle, and soda was not available. They used to bring sodas from Singapore. So if I did not drink, I had not learned yet.
You're telling us for the audience, or
Yes.
you want us to believe it?
Yes, please believe me. So soda was not available. Sodas used to come from Singapore. And soda would cost more than the whiskey.
Okay.
Because a bottle of whiskey can give you 20 pegs, and soda will give you 1 peg, and cost was almost same. So people used to discourage the guest for soda. He said, soda mat mango, whiskey pee lo jasti. So that
In fact, water may have been more expensive than whiskey also.
water was there, but
It came on donkeys.
water, yes, water, but so I mean water. Since there was no electricity, the refrigerators were also not there, fans were not there, air conditioner was there. The water was always warm water. So it will not give you good taste with the whiskey, and soda is something different. Yeah, water used to be brought by donkeys. All the it was one of the local Bedouin profession. They would bring water from Jumeirah. I mean, far places was a little sweeter than the nearer one. But in both the cases, the water would come in teens, 2 teens, on one on each side of the donkey.
Okay.
So this little saltish water will cost you 4 annas. I don't know how many of you know annas.
Yeah.
Quarter rupee.
16 annas in a
16
rupee.
annas a rupee. So 4 annas per teen, and the sweeter water will cost 8 annas. But it was very energetic water, because we could see cockroaches, flies, ants in the water, and we had to clean it, make it potable.
So that's why you preferred red label. Safely. Okay. So Ram, as a young professional, you came, you worked here, and then after some time, your mother found a bride for you in Pune?
No. My brother found
Your brother found it, okay. Tell us about it. Heenaji is here, so
Yes.
let her hear this side of the story.
Yes, you are really digging so many things which people don't know. Yes, we were in Baroda, and my elder brother took me to Pune. Let us try to find out.
Elder brother Hotu.
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 Let us try to find out a girl for you.
Okay.
And so I would be honest. It's not that we did not see a few girls. He took me. I mean, the matchmakers are there, and
Yes.
this is a totally arranged marriage.
Arranged marriage, okay.
Because I always say that love may be blind, but marriage is the eye opener.
It's an eye opener. Very good. Very good.
But in our case, in our case, we blindly married and then fell in love.
And then fell in love. Okay.
That is much easier.
Yes.
That way. And this is exactly what I would advise everybody to do. Because falling in love early and then subsequently marriage becomes eye-opener. So I went to her house. She was as pretty as she is today.
Yes, today, very
Yes.
good.
And hardly we had hardly any conversation, but it was love at first sight. Without talking.
And second sight and so on.
Yeah, yes. So then after that, after our first meeting, I went to Japan because I had a business trip. And I think after maybe 10 or 12 days, I received a cable. In those days, there was no telexes. Neither there was a telex, nor email, nor faxes. Even telefax was not available. There were cables. And people were very genius while sending the cables, because if you send 7-letter cable, that covers the minimum charges.
Okay.
7 letters.
7 letters.
And there was LT cable which had 22 letters, 22 words, and that was also covering that minimum. But delivery will be delayed in case of a letter telegram. So he sent me XF cable.
Okay.
XF cable means 7 words.
7 words.
Top of will be, of course, address of the company where I was stationed in Japan. Congratulations, yourself engaged.
Engaged.
Hotan.
Already engaged. Okay.
So the congratulations was done by me.
7 words. Okay. Okay.
7 words. And yourself engaged.
Yes.
I did not send the cable back to him, but I sent the letter immediately. I said, thank you.
So from Pune, she moved to Baroda to be with you.
Yes.
And then you came back to Dubai alone.
Eh?
You came back to Dubai alone.
Yes, I came to, because in those days, most of the companies, the life in Dubai was such that there were not many women. And companies also did not encourage to take women. So most of the people lived alone.
Which year was this?
1966.
Okay.
But subsequently, by late 60s,
It opened up.
there were a few people, like if we say Mr. Lula, he used to work in an oil company. His wife was there.
Was with him. Okay.
I remember when, and like Hero Jashanmal. Jashanmal's, incidentally, she was the first woman in the whole of Dubai to own a car.
Okay. Okay.
This is regular car among women, it was she who bought it. And then we had not one or two, but actually one only, Mr. Kirpalani. He used to work with British Bank of the Middle East. And he was a very senior officer, and he had a private generator in his house. His wife was also. So you could count on fingers the ladies who used to live here.
And then when did you have...
Are you clear? I mean, your sound is clear?
Can you hear?
Yes.
Because I think after last two occasions,
Are
you want to be sure that
are you enjoying or feeling bored?
Otherwise, we'll have both of us walk around down the aisle. Okay.
Yeah.
So then tell us about your career with, ITL Group as a young professional, young junior professional. You moved up, you became a partner, you became the chairman now. How did that journey proceed?
Well, in those days, even when I came, there was no discrimination or difference between the bosses and the people who work. They used to do, most of the owners of the companies, they were cooking at night, although during daytime they would be keen competitors. but at night they would sit together and eat. I remember Mr. Murij, my senior colleague, who's not well, and along with various other Sindhis, so one will cut the onion, another will clean utensils, and another will make chapati, and so
Tend to
they
be
will
divided the
share,
tasks.
divide the responsibility and eat. So when I came here, it was total office work. When you say office work, right from collecting the mail from post office, but it was quite exciting. Because mail will come twice a week. And people were eager to get letters from their dear ones from India. There will be newspapers and hawala business, hundi business was very common. People will wait for that. And outside, because no sooner the mail arrived, post office, the people in the post office itself, they would start sorting. So every 2 minutes, we will keep on opening the box, collect the letter, and start reading there. And that was the spot where I was able to see every top local there. So they would read their mail. And again stay back. In the meantime, we will chat. And
It was a good meeting place.
yes, I mean there was no better networking than that. And when I say top means top, let it be Ali Awais, Abdul Rahim Galadari, Abdul Wahab Galadari, and Sultan Awais, all these people, the Juma Majid, all will come there and take out the.
In fact, Isa Saleh Kurg writes that
Oh yes, Isa Saleh.
he used to work in the post office at one time.
Initially, he started his career in post office. Then he went to British Bank of the Middle East. Yes, and then he started business, Grunding, I remember very well. And Grunding was hailed by one Indian, one Bhatia family, and from there
The agency went to
agency went
Isa.
well. Yes, Grunding was a big brand.
Big brand.
And
German brand.
yes,
German brand.
and he had a very close relation with the ruler also, Isa Saleh Guru. And when post office started, see, the ruler himself was involved in allotting the post boxes. I don't know how it, I was not there at that time, but first 5 boxes were given to locals, and among foreign companies, we were the first company to get it. Our PO box number is 6.
6, okay.
So it's very interesting now when we have got millions of boxes,
Yes.
and we have this 6.
Number 6.
But I mean, if Sheikh Rashid wanted to have number 1 box for himself, or he could do without it also. But he also, ruler's office has a box
number.
I think it is 26 or 27. But number 1 was given to Al Ghurair. So this shows how much respect and value
For the businesses and the
the
businessmen.
rulers always have been given to the business community.
Community. And so from those days to the present day, how has been the journey?
You know, the journey has been very, very smooth. God has been very kind. I have taken the journey as it comes. If somebody says I am a visionary, no. There's no planning. Whatever is destined has to happen. So whatever comes on my way, I have accepted it, and I have tried to do best of it. So from office assistant, when I used to work in the office, the Sindhi in me always came out.
Yes.
How long you can do this? How far you can do that? So we had an accountant he would discourage me from doing the business. Samples will come by post, and he would open his drawer and put it in the drawer. Nothing was done about the samples. I used to tell him, why don't you give me samples so that I can go and work in the market and do some business? He said, no, you are already doing so much and you are so hardworking. Where is the time for you to go? Now, if we run this way, how long you can continue? The once he went for washroom, because in those days, no office or shops had washroom inside. So he had gone out. What I did, I opened the drawer, took the samples, and went on the Dera site. I was risking that as an accountant, he may refuse to compensate me for the Abra fare. It was 1 anna at that time. So I said, he may refuse to give me 1 anna because I had gone without permission. It was unauthorized travel. The chartered accountant must be knowing.
You took the risk.
So I went there on the other side and I could get the order. So my first order of my life in Dubai, I brought the order. I said, I went. He asked me, where did you go? I said, I went Dera site. He said, why? Without asking me. I said, yes, you. But you could leave the shops, open. There was no risk involved. So I said, I brought the order. Now he could not say no. It was $125 order, but it was quite big at that time. Order was there.
So that 1 anna unauthorized trip was worthwhile.
He gave me 1 anna.
He gave you 1
Yes.
And maybe more, or no? Only 1 anna?
1
Or
anna.
A bit more.
Actually, it was 1 anna going, 1 anna coming. So it was 2 annas which I had to risk. But Sindhis take risk.
Yes.
So
We know it very well.
So that way, and the guy who was my first customer is Musa ji, Karim ji. I think Mangaba must be knowing him. He must have heard. And after so many years, maybe around after 50 years, I saw him. Gary, you have missed the fun, but welcome. So
No, we'll charge 2 annas from Gary.
So, and those sets were, the order which I got was the porcelain set, ashtray, cigarette case, and lighter.
Okay.
$125 worth order. And that was my start. The business went on, and it went on multiplying. And that was the seller's market. At that time, whatever you bring, you could sell. There was no, what is today, it's a big challenge. It's buyer's market, so many avenues available. At that time, anything you bring, it will be sold, and sold at your price. So it's not only selling, seller's market, but one could make
command the price.
Yes. All those old timers who have made their fortune or good money. Not that it required extra skill. Situation.
The time was right.
Yes. Let us face the fact.
So you mentioned about, as a Sindhi, you could not stay as a professional, as an office person. You went out. But you have also had a lot of interest in writing about Sindhiyat, setting an Asil Sindhi,
Yes,
establishing that institution, etc. You took a lot of interest, but you also say that the younger generation are giving up the traditions, the old customs. So tell us a bit more about it.
When you are going to ask her?
Pointing out to her.
No, when you are going to ask her about her mental health?
I will ask her. I will ask her.
Okay. See, I mean, the cost of independence, there is no parallel in India like Sindhis who were sacrificed. They simply left everything. There was partition of Punjab, partition of Bengal, but Sindh did not partition. So they left everything and they came. So it's very important that we need, and because they got scattered all over the country, not only India, but all over the world. But with that, they started losing the identity, which is very dangerous. I mean, we are so particular, so concerned about extinction of tiger population. But I wish we should give that much concern. Also, extinction of Sindhi population. This is very important because after all, they belong to Mohenjo-daro civilization, which is 7,500 years old thing. So there is a lot to be understood. So particularly that identity comes from language, and that language is diminishing. People don't, and after coming from Sindh, people were so much involved in their roti kapda makan pursuits. They totally started forgetting the language, which is very dangerous, which needs to be corrected. So my effort is very little in that. People are coming back. I have often been countered by young boys, and sometimes I say, why don't you speak in Sindhi? And I encourage everybody, every community should speak in their own mother tongue. It's very important. That is your identity. And that has a lot of background to learn from. I mean, there's a history and a lot of things to get out of it. So I would say, why don't you speak in Sindhi? He say, uncle, khali Sindhi baat karte ho. What do I lose if I don't speak? And what I gain if I speak? That's true. If you don't speak, you don't lose. If you speak, you don't gain much. Nothing. I think I told you that that day in the club. Setu and I had no answer. Yes, I mean, he's right. He's managing his life very well. If he doesn't speak the language, what does he lose? Nothing. Then, some time back, the same situation arose. I asked the boy the same way. He replied the same thing. And there was a picture on the wall. I said, whose picture is that? And he said, this is my mother's picture. I said, is she alive? He said, no. I said, what did you gain by calling her your mother? Did you gain anything? And what would you lose if you had not said so? For us, it is a paper, framed paper. But you try to drive identity from that picture. You are driving identity from your mother, that she is my mother. Language is your mother, and you need to take your identity. So you can't lose your identity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now we'll move to Rachna.
Yeah, because she has.
I will ask her. I'll ask her. I'll ask her to say a few words in Sindhi.
Actually, much more to offer.
I'll ask her to reply to me in Sindhi. Now let's see.
Yes, I say she speaks Hindi. Yes,
She does? Okay.
I
Very
read
good.
and write also.
Very good.
Why
Very
don't
good.
you speak to him in Sindhi?
No, but I did want to tell you, because we grew up with such a strong Sindhi influence that all the three of us have actually carried it wherever we've gone. So I was the president of the Sindhi Association in Miami. And we, for the first time in the history of the association, we had a Sindhi night where we flew in Sindhi artists from India.
Very good.
And we had a proper Sindhi night where everybody was dressed up Sindhi. We had Sindhi food. We had the children. I had trained the children to dance on a Sindhi song. The girl who introduced, she tried to speak in Sindhi, or at least she said a few words in Sindhi, and she talked about what it meant to her to be a Sindhi. And these are children from the States. So they're far further away than we are,
Yes.
being in Dubai. My sister, Gauri, the eldest one, she's very involved. She always celebrates Cheti Chand, and she'll bring the artists from all over to do that. Chetna, in her own way in Dubai, I know she's done the Nach Sindhi something that they put together over
Okay,
here.
okay.
So, promoting Sindhi art. So I feel in our way we try, the youngsters. I want to be fair. But
No, I
it's
think,
not always easy.
It's amazing that that you are carrying the tradition in in the US,
Right.
in the Caribbean,
And it's not always easy to do
Yes.
because it's really mindsets that you have to change. Because till I went to Miami, the Sindhi Association was only doing Bollywood. There was really no Sindhi happening in the association. So, but then it's old mindsets that you have to change, and the idea that, okay, we youngsters can come in and maybe make that change. So the older generation, maybe you need to step aside. That's hard for them to do. So it's a process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talking about process and mind and everything else, why did you choose to become focused on psychology? You chose it at
So since I was 5, I think I wanted to become a lawyer.
Okay.
And everybody who knew me knew I wanted to become a lawyer. But I wanted to become a lawyer in India, and I wanted to fight for women's rights.
Okay.
So I was very hell-bent on that. It did not happen.
Why he didn't allow you to do law, or
No, it just, it didn't pan out.
it didn't work out,
It was,
okay.
it was situation at that time, so it did not pan out.
I will interfere here. She always used to say, I want to become lawyer and criminal lawyer like Ram Jethmalani. I say, you are too short for that.
No, that was, but see, underlying, I think it was about helping people.
yes.
And so it was, so this, I did the next best thing, which is helping people through mental health. In the family, in addition to a very strong Sindhi grounding,
Yes.
we've always seen both of them do. My earliest memories of my parents are doing things for other people.
Social service.
Right. So we've always seen that, and we've grown up with that. So it was a part of who we are, and to me, it became a part of my value system. And I was privileged to be able to live my value system, because you see, a lot of people, I tell my patients that we all have values that we hold very dear to our heart, and then we have life. And the bigger the distance between my values and what reality of my life is, that distance is mental health, right? Because
Yes.
that's where depression comes in, that's where anxiety comes in. So I've been privileged to be able to live off of my value and belief systems and be able to help people in every capacity. But it really came from them, because both of them in their capacity, we've always seen do more than, I still remember this, because we were I think we were traveling to India, and there was this girl who came up to Dad, and she was thanking him. So he did not know who she was. And then she explained that she was one of the girls who he had sponsored in India, and thanks to his sponsorship, she was working with one of the major airlines today.
Okay.
He had no idea, because it was an anonymous donation.
Yes.
But, he gave it to a student. He did not know which student, but she, of course, knew. And she came up to him and she said, "You don't know what you've done for me. You've changed my whole life." It's things like that that kind of stayed.
Yes. Sensitive, thoughtful.
Yeah. So that's how mental health started.
So tell us about your recollections of your parents as an influence in terms of, on all, I mean, all the three sisters.
Sure. So we grew up seeing mom do everything for the community. I mean, they were involved with the Indian Association, the Indian Ladies Association.
Yes.
A lot of charity was done. We girls got involved with that because I remember that her and Auntie Suri,
Yes.
Uncle Lula's,
Yeah.
and they used to organize these charity drives. We girls used to be very involved with that. And so, of course, she's been a major influence. One of the things that I really picked up from my mother is that forgive and forget. Just, it's okay. You know, whatever anyone does, just move on. Just move on. And those are great learnings to have because it gives you a groundedness. If I had to sum up what I think they've given us, which I think every parent should try to, and we try to, because now we three are parents,
Yes.
is growing up with humility, the value for money. He was very particular.
about that.
I still remember going and telling him, "Oh, Dad, I want a car." And he said, "Yeah, Toyota." So I said, "What?" He said, "You want a car to take you from place A to place B? You will get that car." So really that value for money, which has stood us so strong in all these years, and honoring your parents and your elders. Because we've always seen him in everything that he's done, he's honored his mom.
Yes, yes,
So-
yes. Including his book, which he dedicates to his mother. Yes, yes.
So
And, no, I think
I
that's,
think if we could teach our children that, we would be great.
in the world of counseling, psychology, what have you seen? Of course, you have practiced mostly in the US and
Not really. I
Also
actually
here?
practiced, okay, so my career started here, where I started with Indian High School and DPS, which is where I met you.
Yes.
And then I ended up heading the 21 schools
Yes.
of the GEMS group, where I was the counseling coordinator. That was my final stintship. But while I was here, we did a lot of other stuff. So I ran a parent support group for ADHD, parents of kids with ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactive
Yes.
disorder. We didn't have that at that time, and it's a very big problem here. So we ran a parent support group. I also partnered with the Indian consulate, and we did a volunteer program on the weekends for anyone who walked into the consulate who wanted help.
Okay.
I worked with the Ministry of Education. I worked with Princess Haya, and we were establishing learning support in the
Yes,
schools.
yes.
So I did that, then I got married.
Then you got married.
So
okay.
then I moved to the Cayman Islands. I worked with the government over there in the Department of Counseling Services, where we did a lot of work with, in general, but also with addictions, because addictions is very big in the islands. I moved to Miami about 4 years back. So then the Sindhi in me came out.
Okay.
And so there, the business, and then it gave birth
That's
to
the
Bakshani
Bakshani
Counseling
Clinic, is it?
Care. Yes.
Okay, okay.
And so I still remember discussing with Dad and creating the logo and all of that.
Yes.
But that's about 4 years back that I started Bakshani Counseling Care.
No, in fact, all the three daughters have done remarkably well, which is a tribute. In fact,
In their chosen fields,
In their chosen
they have done exceedingly well. Touch wood.
my wife and I were in The Hague, in Netherlands, in Holland, was it in April? It was in April. And Venu Rajamani, who is to be the Consul General here, is the ambassador there. And he talked about your elder sister, Gauri, the tremendous work that she did in St. Martin's
Yes, because of,
during the cyclone,
during hurricane.
Hurricane.
during the hurricane.
Yes, she was instrumental in evacuating 2 plane loads of people from St. Martin to
Tremendous,
outside.
tremendous. Yeah.
And Venu Rajamani is the ambassador covering that area because that is Dutch island.
It's a Dutch island.
Yes.
Netherlands Antilles, as they call it, yeah.
As a matter of fact, last week only he said, I want to go again to St. Martin, but you have to come with me.
Okay, okay, okay. So Ram, tell me, what message do you have for the Indian younger business community, your colleagues, your friends,
Young and not so young.
young and not so young, yeah.
Young and not so young. I think my simple, which I have been repeating, that don't try to be heavy, because elephants don't fly, birds fly. And if we are birds, we are always comfortable. And I thought of one quotation today, I don't know, but exact wordings, I think I have to see this paper.
I hope it's not from the Hindi cinema.
Huh?
Huh? Because in your
Yes.
book you write very much from
Yes.
Jina yaha, marna yaha. Iske siva, jana kaha.
Wow, wow, wow. I never realized that you are such a singer.
Aaj kal, aaj aur kal.
Kal. Yes. Yes. I wrote it. I said, don't waste time in justifying yourself. This is very important. Don't waste time in justifying yourself. Those who trust you need no justification. And those who do not trust you will not believe your justification. So you move on with the world. Chalte raho, and keep on doing your job. Because if you justify, that is not going to work. And people who love you, they don't need a justification. And people don't need you, they will not trust your justification anyway. So
It doesn't justify to give them justification.
it's just
As well. Yes.
So this is the message for young and not so young.
Yeah. Tell us about the NRI forum.
Yes. Yeah. He has a question from the dais about NRI forum.
Bharat Bhai.
Bharat Bhai,
Overseas Economic Forum.
the amount of work which he has done for NRIs. In 1987, the first Overseas Indian Economic Forum was formed. And I still distinctly remember that Madhukar Gupta from India Innovation Center, who became Home Secretary later, Arun Kumar was the Counsel General, and Rusi Patel, a Chartered Accountant, and also the first chairman of Chartered Accountant chapter. And we had SP Srivastava. And they found me handy solution to chair the Overseas Indian Economic Forum, which is actually the body which subsequently merged into IBPC. So where we are sitting today, actually the roots are Overseas Indian Economic Forum and Bharat Bhai. And even Mr. Sudesh Agarwal is sitting. He was a member of that overseas. How about Gary? You were there? You started from IBPC. Okay, so you joined the baby. Now, I don't know how many of you know that Overseas Indian Economic Forum has contributed so much for the NRIs enormously. India used to have estate duty. And estate duty was a Draculian law, and if you had to pay honestly, you had to pay 102%. It looks funny, but that is a fact. When Prithvi Raj Kapoor died, Raj Kapoor did not have enough money to pay for that property where Prithvi Raj Kapoor was staying, because you had to pay total white money and the market. If I had a house which I have bought at 2 lakh rupees, and at the time of my death, I was, and the price is 20 lakhs, I have to pay estate duty on 20 lakhs and over 100%. Yes, I see Mr. Mahendra Asher sitting with me, the first secretary of Overseas Indian Economic Forum. I think he needs a round of applause. Yes. 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 I mean, anyone from Overseas Indian Economic Forum sitting here? Naveen Kapoor, okay. Dr. Bhutani, of course, Mangawa. Yes. I'm. Oh, yes. See, so this is called ownership. This is called ownership that, Overseas Indian Economic Forum is not forgotten. So, there was a lady who had lost her husband living in Dubai, an amount of 100,000 rupees was deposited with the Bank of Baroda. So after the death of her husband, when she claimed that amount, it was not given, and the bank asked them to bring the probate from the consulate. Consulate said you get clearance from income tax people. So we had to take a representation to India. Pranab Kumar Mukherjee was the finance minister. Mrs. Gandhi was still there. She was the prime minister. And interestingly, estate duty was the state subject. If a person died in Gujarat, the Gujarat government got the estate duty. If he died in Punjab, Punjab government will get. So it was very easy. When I met Pranab Kumar Mukherjee, I said, sir, my question is very simple. Estate duty is state subject. What can you tell us? Who gets the money? Who gets the estate duty if a person dies in Dubai? He was answerless. He said, what are you trying to say? I say, leave NRS, because they are very honest. They keep their money in the bank. Unlike India, they have got many ways to manage their fund. So I said, leave NRIs from this estate duty problem. And he said, okay, let me try. And this continued. Mrs. Gandhi passed away. She left only 180,000 rupees for estate duty to be charged. So, she left only 180,000 in the account. Then she passed away. Rajiv Gandhi came. Then finally VP Singh cleared estate duty, and not only for NRIs but for all Indians. Today India is a country where there is no estate duty. They have perhaps forgotten. I hope there is no government person here. They have totally forgotten that there used to be estate duty once upon a time, and we need to introduce, because there's nothing wrong if a person dies with money. If government gets a little bit up, in USA there's a estate duty, in England there's a estate duty, Hong Kong has a estate duty, but that is 5, 10%, 15% that way. Huh? No. इसके लिए मैंने बोला कोई सरकारी आदमी तो नहीं बैठा है इधर. Yes. So that was a great, I think people don't know even this. This was Dubai's contribution. I don't take the credit myself, but this is Dubai's contribution for whole of India to abolish estate duty. It was not a small achievement.
Lot of facilities which you are enjoying has just come because of the hard efforts of the Overseas Indian Economic Forum.
Thank you.
Where Ram Vaksani was the chairman and myself was the convener of the NRI Grievances Committee.
We had Bharat Bhai in his heydays. Of course, he continues to be still young at heart, but the contribution he has done to Overseas Indian Economic Forum is unmatchable. Thank you. Thank you, Bharat Bhai.
Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you very much for sharing such knowledge. I came to Dubai 20 years back, and I've seen you contributing to India Club, Indian High School, IBPC, even in the ICAI. How you are contributing a lot to the community, and this we can see it for. I born in 1968, and you came, I was just making the calculation in 1959. It's a very long period of time. So I ask audience to give a big round of applause. And
Thank you.
So what are how do you find time and how you are able to contribute continuously? Means what is your aspirations or how are you able to contribute so much in spite of doing business, driving force?
I think when we hear that Mr. Modi is working 16 hours a day, he finds the time. So finding the time is not a problem, for time will find you. You should have only inclination to work, and I'm sure that inclination itself will keep you young and active. When I came here, in those days there was no electricity and we used to operate on kerosene lanterns. At that time, my immediate boss was one Mr. Punjabi, who would tell me at 6 o'clock, chalo, abhi dukaan band karo, घर में चलते हैं, beer पीते हैं. He's the one who made me drink beer, he taught me. But I would tell him, Baba, beer तुम पियो, मैं लालटीन लेके घर को चलता हूँ, and I will finish my work. Somehow this has been right from the beginning. So whatever we have to do, time will come.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I've come late, but we appreciate what you have done for so many years. But I have a question for Rachna and not for you. And you
Thank
have,
you.
And thank you. You said that you have studied and practiced psychology. I want to ask you two questions. What's the difference between stress and depression? And how do you avoid it? And during this time of the world where everything is sixes and sevens and no business is doing very well anywhere in the world. So how do you avoid stress and depression? And what is stress and what is depression?
So when we talk about depression, we're talking now about clinical stuff, right? So it has to be something that's debilitating. We all have stress. We all go through stuff in life that we find challenging to deal with. And there's actually also good stress. So stress is not necessarily a bad thing because sometimes we get stressed and that stress drives us to do certain things in life. So we don't run away from stress. Now the difference between stress and depression is a debilitating mental condition. So when a person, if one of my patients is depressed, that means they're not sleeping well, they're not eating well, they're not taking care of themselves, they're not able to enjoy life that they used to, a lot of sadness, basically not being able to function. So when the DSM, which is our Bible for mental health people, when the DSM describes a mental disorder, it has to be something that literally leaves you not being able to function. Stress is not like that, because stress, we all go through it. We, in America, we're very good with medicating people for everything, where really what we need is lifestyle changes. What you need to do is, in life, you have to put in things that are helpful to you to manage your stress. So things like eating right, things like yoga, meditation, exercising, spending time with family, doing things that bring you joy. That's very important to manage your stresses, because we know that we cannot run away from stress. I don't know if that was a clear description of both of them and why it was different, because depression is it's an extreme form of sadness. Anxiety is an extreme form of fear. So when we talk about disorders, we really talk about extreme forms where the person just cannot function.
How do you help them?
So there's two parts to it. I am trained in dialectic behavior therapy. What we do is, so it's a mind-body connection, right? So cognitive, which is your thoughts, and behavior, which is your actions. I can't really control emotions. I can't control feelings, right? So if I tell you right now, feel happy, you can't really do that unless you do something that makes you happy or you think about something that makes you happy. So we work on teaching our patients how to change thoughts and change behaviors to be able to manage, because we can't also control thoughts, because thoughts just come to us. I am trying to, through Bakshani Counseling Care, I'm trying to bring the world of tele-mental health to Dubai eventually, through some of the hospitals here, because I think one of the biggest things over here is we don't have affordable mental health help. So hopefully through tele-mental, we would be able to provide some of that and deal with the stresses and depression.
Thank you very much.